Well, you have been extremely busy fighting the trenches to stop a system of apartheid entering the Australian Constitution, so well done for that. Just quickly, were you relieved by the result?
Yeah, look, I really was. I was saying the other day, I really did always think Australians would work this one out. From a long way out, it struck me that this was going to be a process of warming up to it, getting people to understand what was being spoken about to the extent there were details to be spoken about, which there weren't many, and then trying to come to a position of, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think that was the answer ultimately. I mean, Aussies historically haven't voted for referenda to go ahead very often. 8 out of 45 or so have ever been successful. And in many cases, they actually genuinely were modest changes, not the one we were seeing in this referendum. So I was very quick out of the blocks, I have to say. I know everyone's saying that now, but I genuinely did 2 years ago say, if we're talking about dividing people by race, then you can count me out on any level, whether it's, regardless of the position that the party took. I have to say, I just simply won't vote for that. And that's not why my grandparents came to this country. They came here to be Aussies, and they were, and so has been my dad, and so am I. And that's where it began and ended for me. So I was very relieved because the prospect of it being successful and introducing this great big government agenda, I feel like it would have gained a lot of traction, and I think we've stopped this one in its tracks for the short term and hopefully for the medium to long term too.
Yes, well, don't worry, you get full praise for always coming out first on these moral issues. And every time we criticise the coalition, we always have the little small print saying, except Alex Antic at the bottom, so don't panic about that. Now, despite the victory of common sense over the voice to Parliament, Australia is far from safe. Now, I can't help but notice that the Labor Party's first instinct upon being told no by the majority of the Australian people is to pivot and blame it all on misinformation. This is something new. Normally, politicians blame the opposition, they blame an ad campaign, they blame the media, or they blame the weather. But to blame the idea of misinformation is a deliberate political choice with a sinister motivation. Now, Senator, are you disturbed by the behaviour of your political peers who refuse to acknowledge the considered and thoughtful decision of the Australian people and are instead claiming they must have been deceived somehow?
Yeah, it's pretty damning, I think, and pretty insulting to Australians who voted overwhelmingly against this. 61% nationally, 64%, I'm proud to say, here in South Australia, the second highest no vote in the country behind Queensland. So to turn around and suggest somehow that this is just misinformation and that Aussies were, getting force-fed lies and were lapping it up because they're so stupid to do so is just ridiculous and offensive to Australians, I have to say. And it did dawn on me immediately after the event that we seem to have seen now the Labor Party pivot on this and say, all right, well, we lost that one, but we've got this big bad misinformation bill coming up, which has been proposed, which is an abomination, I have to say. And we've spoken about it, I think, many times. I've seen, I know you're very, very, very across this bill. And, what better way to peddle the myth that there's, huge amounts of misinformation out there? We never seem to be able to get proof about what it was. What is it specifically about the referendum that people were told that made them vote by the millions against this referendum? And that's never been explained. So, they're on to the next thing now. And this is the thing with the left, that it's like the slice of the salami. They never, ever, ever give up. The left play much harder, much more disciplined politics in many respects than the centre-right of politics does sometimes, I have to say. And this is just a good example of that. We have to be on our guard and we have to defeat this misinformation bill because it'll shut shows like this down, frankly.